Head over to thebestsongever.com and purchase our new hit, Together Again. It is a cover of Smokey Mike and the God King. That's Jeremy Boring and Michael Knowles. And with your help, we will smash our way onto the Billboard charts.
When we came to this country, my mama told me how we had so little money, like on 86th Street in Bensonhurst in Brooklyn, you have a lot of fruit stands. And she'd go to the fruit stand on the west side of the street, all the way west, see how much the grapes were, walk all the way to the other side, down the block. And it's not a short block. These are avenues in Brooklyn. See how much the grapes were. And if it's like a 5-cent difference, she would do it. And that's the kind of thing when you're like really poor, you have to make these considerations. So it like there's few things that get me like really, really, really enraged. And the flippancy with which inflation is talked about as if like, oh, it's going to be warmer tomorrow. It's like, these are people having to make sacrifice about, they have to wake up half an hour earlier to get to work because they can't afford like some kind of surge pricing or something for the bridge, or it's so gross. You know, I did a couple of books with D.L. Hughley, and one of the points he made, which really kind of resonated with me, and I don't agree with him specifically, but he goes, you know, this country hates poor people. And I don't think that's true, but it sure doesn't love them. And
it doesn't look out for them.
It doesn't, and especially people who are in power. You know, the lefties traditionally at their best are the bleeding hearts who are like, oh, you know, someone's hungry, let's get them fed, let's get them clothes, you know, let's look out for them. And like you'd laugh at that, but it's like, you know what? The older I get, the less I laugh at that, and the more I'm like, we can use a little bit more of that. And it really sickens me how much poor people aren't thought of in this country because they don't have much power by definition.
They're used as weapons.
Yes, exactly.
The immigrants are the new poor people that are being taken care of by the government. It's the people that are coming across the border.
They're not poor.
Being flown. Well, they don't come over here with anything as far
yes,
as
they do.
Tell.
It costs them thousands of dollars to hire these coyotes.
Yeah, but
some of these people coming from North Africa have 10 grand.
Sometimes they come in and they have to pay that back after they get here.
Yeah, sometimes. But when we're looking at North African migrants who paid smugglers $5,000, that's more than a lot of people in this country could afford to spend on moving. Now, to be fair, yes, they get here, now they don't have anything. Perhaps they shouldn't have spent between $3 and $5 grand, or even upwards of 10, depending on who they're with, to come to this country. And now the fascinating thing is we've got these videos coming up from like Ashley St. Clair, Nuance Bro had a video, and Taylor Hansen from Tenet. These people are being given premium economy. They're being flown in the premium seats on airplanes.
Yeah, that story
to their choice of destination.
You flew me coach here, you POS.
Well,
are you a migrant?
Yeah. Did you cross the border illegally?
I'm a refugee.
We will reimburse you the difference and get you a first class on the way back.
I'll tell you.
I'm not Joe Biden.
I'll tell you a funny story. When I left New York for Austin, one-way ticket, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to get first class. And the armrests were too far apart because I'm a munchkin. And I'm like, I wasted money for nothing.
You can't even use the armrests.
I couldn't even use them.
All I can think of about solving the inflation issue is making fuel cheaper.
But it's not just fuel; it's also food, and it's also rent. It's
labor.
Literally
a lot
everything.
of that stuff is the reason food's expensive is because you got to use fuel to get it from the farm to the factory.
But that also doesn't include human expectation. Inflation is also high because people demand clean running water, air conditioning, refrigeration, hot showers.
A lot of that stuff comes from combustion, which is carbon based.
Is your answer graphene? It's your answer to everything.
It's hydrogen.
No, but it's an overly simplistic answer. It's not completely wrong. Energy plays a huge role in inflation.
Fuel particularly.
But the issue is if people did not want these things, they would work for less. Inflation is a huge component of inflation is the demands of the people and what they're willing to work for. And there are a lot of millennials. There's a poll that came out. Millennials are broken people. The millennials said they would be happy with $500,000 a year. Every other generation, they said what
a sacrifice.
Yeah, every other generation said 120.
Yeah, of course.
120 and I'm happy. Millennials are like 500. Now, what do you think happens? You take a generation of people who want 500 grand and you say, hey, we'll pay you $15 an hour to work at Starbucks. They go, no, I want 500 grand. You're like, okay, well, we need to hire people and they're demanding massive salaries because they want to be able to buy a bunch of stuff the average person doesn't want. They make this argument, poverty shouldn't exist, abolish poverty, these other arguments. Like, poverty today is wealth 400 years ago.
Yes.
There will always be poverty.
Or even 100 years ago.
Seriously, because poverty is relative.
Yes.
So it's not so simple. Inflation is not just a component of the cost of fuel, it's demands of the population and what they're willing to work for. Inflation and the cost of goods is a component of how much energy a person will expend for 1 hour in exchange for how much energy do they get back. And everybody wants more energy back than they put out. Millennials want 5 to 10 times the energy they put out back. And so it's not so simple to just say cheaper energy solves the problem. Because when let's say we do have an energy revolution, energy becomes 10% cheaper. You know what happens? Who's the guy who did that formulation for the cost of gas based on the use of gas based on the cost of gas? He basically early 1900s found that when gas is cheaper, people spend the same amount of money on gas. They just drive more. When you make gas expensive, they just drive less. And the price and they spend
it's a flat cost.
Yes. That if someone has
Fixed
$50
cost, yeah.
left over, they'll be like, I'll just drive around for no reason.
I wouldn't consider 10% a revolution. If you could drop the cost of fuel by like 99%, that would be a revolution.
And what we end up seeing is people will just drive more.
Maybe.
Or they'll get more.
Not maybe.
You only have so much time in there.
Or they'll just use more gas consuming vehicles, like they'll have rocket ships.
This is exactly what they saw. When gas got cheaper, people bought gas guzzlers because gas is cheap now.
Right.
It does not solve. You look at this issue and you're like, a single individual can make the decision that because gas is cheaper, I'll live frugally and I'll save $10 and buy more food. Not what happens. On the macro level, people will drive more, they'll buy gas guzzlers, and the amount they spend on travel remains the same.
People used to not be able to afford meat in this country, right? It used to be a big thing. Now everyone, even though the price have gone up, can afford meat. It's not that they're eating less meat.
They just buy more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they get used to it and they expect more.
The cost of food gets cheaper. People don't save money on food now. They just eat until they're dead.
I think that's why not depopulation, but degrowth. People want the human race to be expanding slower. It's like, might call it conspiracy. I don't know, but that's why
it's explicit.
Yeah, I think that's why it is explicit, because humans unfettered will just expand and grow and consume.
Any animal.
But that's not the problem. It is absolutely amazing looking at the International Space Station. I believe the cost of it was $3 billion. And all of the power of human minds all across the planet came together to develop the technology and the capability to send people into space to live up there for months on end. That is human minds coming together. More people means we'll just start colonizing off the planet. We'll figure these things out. The problem is culture. And so degrowth is not the answer. They're saying, live in the pot, eat the bugs. Well, that's an argument. The solution actually is cultural change. People need to they need to eat less food. They need to recognize food is cheap now. Don't buy 10 times of it. They need to recognize community is important. You need to have creativity, culture, and development.
Amen.
The problem is, while we have a ton of really amazing people working really hard to develop technology so we can go to outer space, we have too many people who, what does Yuval Harari call them? Useless eaters. And so the solution, in my view, to the quote unquote useless eater is, wow, look at all of these people that could put their potential to the advancement of human civilization that haven't been properly appropriated. And what do they say? Put them in pods, give them the bugs, and have them play video games until they no longer exist and don't have kids.
Harvest their body heat for electricity.
That's not a real thing, though.
You can harvest piezoelectricity, like heat and friction for electricity.
The energy loss from that is a matrix. The Matrix did that. And the only reason they came up with that concept was because people wouldn't understand the concept of a neural net. So, harnessing energy from human body is ridiculously wasteful.
Didn't the Matrix just do that because they had to have a reason why they didn't just kill all the people?
No, it was the original idea in the Matrix was that first humans chose the Matrix.
That makes more sense. Okay.
And that is canon. And that the reason the robots needed them was for a neural network to basically create a massive...
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. Their brains are used to compute the Matrix itself.
The argument that more people means more expansion doesn't track, because like a deer population, if it expands too rapidly, it'll eat all the food and then it'll starve and it'll have a mass starvation.
Deer don't invent spaceships, though.
Yeah, but most humans don't either. It's a very small percentage of humans that have that kind of mind capacity.
That's not true at all.
Well,
because the cobalt we use for our technology is not mined by rocket scientists.
Well,
it's
you have
mined
slaves, but the people that build the rockets are someone else.
So we don't like the conditions in the cobalt mines, but we're not going to send Einstein to a cobalt mine. What we should have is a Forrest Gump-like person who can't build a rocket, but dude can run really, really fast.
You can run fast?
Sure.
Undoubtedly, yes.
There is a role for everyone on God's green earth. The problem is...
Oh, no. I completely disagree.
You don't think so?
No, most people are as irrelevant as a butterfly, and they have as much impact on
and
reality.
they can't break rocks for us?
Oh, sure, but we are at a point where ChatGPT is a better conversationalist than the average human being.
But I don't care about conversation. I care about who's going to pick up the cobalt for our smartphones.
I think much of these things, like cobalt, like can be done by robots or machines.
I do not believe that's correct right now. Perhaps in the future.
Sure, I don't think it's going to be far in the future. It's just not economically feasible.
Fair point. Perhaps the big concern of the Bill Gates types is that once we come to a point where trivial and menial labor is done by machines, you will only require higher thinking human beings, in which case the quote unquote useless eaters become a very serious liability.
We're at a point where I would much rather, and most other people would rather interact with the touchscreen than with a cashier at a fast food place, because the odds of me getting my order correct are much higher, and it's going to be more faster, more efficient. That's a problem.
I agree and disagree. I think you are correct. It will likely be higher, but I also think the issue is not just the cashier, but the guy making the food.
Correct.
So,
but that
until
also,
we eliminate that role,
but that's also happened now. They have the machines.
They have fully automated McDonald's. I think it's a McDonald's. It could be wrong, but there was a video I saw where you go to a kiosk and order, and then behind the counter, you actually watch the robot arm grab the burger, put it on the grill, take it out, flips, puts it on the bun. Then the thing drops all the ingredients, folds
Isn't there
it,
like a
slides
fully
it out.
automated Taco Bell and somewhere in the Midwest? It's like a drive-through completely. There are no humans who work there.
And so I think
crazy.
I'm pretty sure it may have been Yuval Noah Harari who said this or someone else, but the idea that they have is when the next industrial revolution happens, to avoid a Luddite riot, what you have to do is before the revolution, placate the masses by stimulating dopamine, put them in a situation where they can play video games all day and get free food. They will eventually just die off. And then we won't have to worry about violence.
So what's interesting is you have that book right there, which I just interviewed Alex Jones about, The Great Reset. And his entire book is about quotes from these guys, where they're not just, it's not like horror porn. They're advocating for Brave New World. Yeah. They're like, this is what we want. There's no other way around it. And I don't think I think this is actually a real concern, because what if you are a millennial, low IQ, low ambition, a sense of entitlement? What am I going to, I'm going to be making I'm going to be breaking cobalt in the mines? No, I'm not.
So
what do you do with that person?
Where's the problem?
What do you do with that person?
You give him a video game.
Sure, that's right. Exactly. That's the point.
And so where's the problem then? Are any of us upset that entitled woke millennials will go lock themselves in a pod eating bugs and playing the Matrix?
At a certain point, if they're all on welfare, it's going to become costly, and someone's going to be like, why are we paying for all these people in their pods to play video games?
So
that's when the problem comes in.
So they don't run around burning everything down because they don't want to break rocks.
Sure, but the point is then they start reproducing and they start voting and all sorts of other things start happening.
Which is why they're also sterilizing themselves and aborting their children.
Sure, but I don't think they're sterilizing themselves means thinking ahead. So a lot of them are not going to be thinking ahead because they're operating on a pleasure principle.
Have you seen there's an article that was being shared. It said, study finds single women are in their 40 or what is it like women are happier when they're single and childless. I think that's what it was, and it showed like a clip from the show Girls, and then my response was, yeah, until they're 35.
Right. Yeah.
But for real. And so what's happening is you have this corporate press apparatus telling all these young women not to have families, and they buy into it.
But the thing is, this isn't even some hypothetical sci-fi thing. This is literally like 2019. Right,
they're explaining
exactly. It's already been happening for years.
Alex Jones described it as, they tell you they're setting bear traps, and if you are too stupid to avoid them, it's your own fault.
I don't think it's too stupid. It's too trusting. And we're taught since we're kids to trust these people. So it's very hard to be like, holy crap, I've been lied to since kindergarten.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.